To tell the story of the international trade in spices, we need to put the ports involved in historical context. Imagine yourself in the late Middle Ages, around 1450, when any form of international travel or trade was exceedingly limited. In Europe, travel by land was on horseback or in a horse-drawn carriage, and further east by donkey, mule, or camel. Travel across water required ships, which, over long distances, needed to be hardy enough to withstand strong winds and large waves, though wind was essential to enable vessels to move. Early travel was not comfortable, so there was not much movement between the kingdoms and principalities of Europe, let alone further afield to Africa and Asia. Australia and the Americas were unknown to Europeans, not yet discovered, in the patronizing language suggesting that anything not known to Europe did not exist. Of course, these continents existed and were inhabited by people who were self-sufficient in their own way. What was missing was the means for people and goods to travel between continents, which was why the pioneer voyages westwards in 1492 by Christopher Columbus and eastwards in 1498 by Vasco da Gama had such an impact. A Genoese seafarer sailing under a Spanish flag discovered the Americas, specifically the islands of the Caribbean, while a Portuguese mariner set foot in Asia, in southwestern India, after a journey entirely by sea. The Venetian Marco Polo and his family members had taken a land route to Asia, visiting India, Mongolia, and China 200 years earlier, but the tales he told on his return were not at first believed. Until the invention of the steamship in the 1830s, all sea travel was powered by wind, or in the Mediterranean Sea by oarsmen. Food cultivation and transportation. These pioneers had a mixture of motives for their journeys: to prove the world was round, to extend human geographical knowledge, or to proselytize on behalf of the Christian religion. Also a desire to find the source of foodstuffs and other goods which were reaching Europe from Asia. These included spices from the Indies, a loose term for India and the islands beyond, and silk and fine porcelain from China. Potatoes, tobacco, and rubber were among products which grew only in the Americas and were brought to Europe following Columbus' pioneering voyage. Consider for a moment the dietary fare of the average European in the 15th century. They were cultivators of vegetables and grain growers, bread being their staple food. The inhabitants of what we now know as Italy probably developed the idea of turning grain into pasta from Marco Polo, who encountered noodles in China, though pasta consumption did not become widespread in Italy until the 19th century. Rice was first brought overland from China to Spain in the 10th century, but only widely cultivated in the Venetian hinterland in the 15th century, after the city authorities exempted it from tax.